My mom and stepdad secretly used all my hard-earned money to buy an apartment for their daughter, so I forced them to face the fact either they return the money or I call return the cops. They laughed at me and I did it. I remember the day my parents sat me down in our living room like it was yesterday. I was 7, wearing my favorite purple dress with butterflies, clutching my worn teddy bear as mom and dad explained they wouldn't be living together anymore. They were so calm about it. No screaming, no throwing things, just two adults who'd fallen out of love deciding to go their separate ways. I didn't cry. Maybe I was too young to really understand what was happening. They divided everything so neatly. The house went to mom, dad moved into a new apartment, and I got 2 bedrooms. The custody arrangement was simple. 1 week with mom, 1 week with dad. And dad, being dad, made sure mom and I were well taken care of financially. About a year after the divorce, dad met Sarah. I still remember the first time he introduced us at a local diner. She had kind eyes and a warm smile, and her son Tommy was sitting next to her playing with his French fries. "Hi, Brittany," Sarah said, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "Your dad's told me so much about you." Tommy looked up from his plate. "Are you going to be my sister?" I liked them immediately. Sarah didn't try too hard or act fake nice like some of dad's previous dates. She was just real. And Tommy, who was 3 years younger than me, became the brother I never had. Around the same time mom started dating Richard. He moved in pretty quickly, and I noticed mom seemed different, distracted, always touching her stomach when she thought no one was looking. They got married in a small ceremony at City Hall, and 2 months later, my half-sister Emily was born. I remember standing in the room looking at this tiny pink bundle in mom's arms. Richard was hovering over them both, completely absorbed. I stood in the corner, shifting from foot to foot, feeling like I was watching a family portrait being painted, one that didn't include me. Dad and Sarah got married that same year. Their wedding was different. They made sure Tommy and I felt included in everything. Sarah even let me help pick out her dress, and during the ceremony, Dad made sure to include special vows to both Tommy and me. "Today I'm not just gaining a wife," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm gaining another child to love, and our 2 amazing kids are gaining a bigger family." That night, as Sarah tucked me into bed in my room at their house, she kissed my forehead and said, "You know, Brittany, I always wanted a daughter. Thank you for letting me be part of your life." I hugged her tight, already knowing that while my family situation wasn't typical, I was lucky to have at least one home where I truly belonged. Life at mom's house changed after Emily was born. It wasn't anything dramatic, no harsh words or cruel treatment. It was more like I was slowly fading into the background, becoming a ghost in my own home. Mom quit her job to become a full-time housewife and everything began revolving around Emily. At first I tried to tell myself it was normal. Of course a baby needs more attention. But as the months passed, the forgetting started. Little things at first, then bigger ones. I remember standing outside school in the rain, watching other kids leave with their parents after the parent-teacher conference. Mrs. Johnson, my 4th grade teacher, waited with me for almost an hour before calling Mom. "Oh God, was that today?" Mom's voice crackled through the phone. "I'm so sorry. I was at Emily's Mommy and Me class. Can we reschedule?" We never did reschedule. Richard just picked me up that day, barely glancing at me as he drove home, talking on his phone about work the whole time. Then came my 10th birthday. I woke up excited, running downstairs expecting at least a happy birthday from Mom. Instead, I found her cooing over Emily in the kitchen. "Mom," I said, hovering by the doorway. "Do you know what day it is?" She looked up, distracted. "Tuesday? Oh, I need to take Emily to her doctor's appointment." I stood there, my heart sinking. "It's my birthday." Oh, her eyes widened. "Oh, Brittany, I'm so sorry. We'll celebrate this weekend, okay? I just have so much going on today with Emily's checkup." But the weekend came and went, and no one mentioned my birthday again. It became easier to spend time at Dad's house. Sarah always made sure my favorite snacks were in the pantry, and Tommy and I would spend hours playing video games or doing homework together. Dad never missed a single school event, and Sarah often came too, taking pictures and beaming like I was her own daughter. I started spending more and more time there. A few days turned into weeks, then months. Mom barely seemed to notice. When I was at her house, she was always busy with Emily, feeding her, playing with her, taking her to play dates. Richard would come home from work, kiss Emily on the forehead, and retreat to his home office. Sometimes I wondered if they'd even notice if I disappeared completely. After about 6 months of me basically living at Dad's full-time, he decided to make it official. "I called your mom today," he told me one evening. "I think it makes sense for you to live here permanently. You're already here most of the time anyway." And I told her I'd stop the alimony payment since I'm taking care of you full-time now. Within hours, Mom was at the door, all worried looks and loving words. "Sweetie, I've missed you so much," she said, hugging me for the first time in what felt like forever. "I've been thinking about everything, and I want us to go back to our original arrangement. I want you home with me half the time, like before." I was 12 by then, old enough to see through it. The sudden concern, the promises to do better, it wasn't about missing me. It was about the money. Dad's alimony checks were the real reason she wanted me back. Emily was 5 when she started rubbing it in my face. She'd follow me around the house with this smug little smile, dropping her bombs when Mom and Richard weren't within earshot. "Daddy says you're not really part of our family," she told me one day while I was doing homework at the kitchen table. "He says you're just visiting." I tried to ignore her, focusing on my math problems, but she kept going. "Mommy and Daddy love me more than you. Last night, Daddy told Mommy he was tired of you being here, and Mommy said just wait until you turn 18, then the money stops and you'll be gone." It hurt, of course it did, but I'd learned to build walls around that pain. I had Dad and Sarah, who showed me what real family love looked like. I had Tommy, who was more of a sibling to me than Emily would ever be. Still, hearing your own mother basically counting down the days until she didn't have to deal with you anymore, that leaves scars. The years crawled by until finally I made it to high school graduation. I sat between my two families during the ceremony, Dad, Sarah, and Tommy on one side, Mom, Richard, and Emily on the other. It felt like sitting between two different worlds. After the ceremony, Dad hugged me tight. "We're so proud of you, Princess." Meanwhile, Mom and Richard were already talking about my departure before we even left the school parking lot. "So," Richard said, jingling his car keys, "have you started packing yet?" They didn't ask about my college plans. Didn't care that I'd gotten into the business program with a partial scholarship. Didn't even pretend to be interested in my future. They just wanted to know when I'd be out of their hair. 2 weeks later, I moved my things to Dad's house. I remember sitting in his living room, nervous about asking for help with college expenses, even though I knew he'd never refuse. "Dad, I got accepted to the financial analyst program," I said, playing with the acceptance letter in my hands. I got a partial scholarship, but before I could finish, Dad and Sarah exchanged glances and smiled. "We've already got it covered, honey," Sarah said, pulling out a folder. "We've been saving for your college funds since you were 8. I spent that summer working at the Silver Spoon Cafe, saving every penny I could. My shifts were mostly morning ones, which left my afternoons free to spend time with my real family. Tommy and I would go to movies, Sarah taught me to cook proper meals for when I'd be living in the dorm, and Dad just kept being Dad, always there with advice or a hug when I needed one. Mom never called to ask about my plans, never stopped by to see how I was doing, never seemed to care that her oldest daughter was about to leave for college. But by then, I'd stopped expecting her to care. College life started in a blur of new faces and experiences. My dorm room was tiny but cozy, and my roommate Jenny was nice enough, though we never became close friends. Between classes and my job at the campus cafe, I barely had time to breathe, but I made sure to call Dad and Sarah at least twice a week. They came to visit whenever they could, and Tommy would tag along, complaining about having to carry my laundry basket but always bringing me my favorite snacks from home. Mom never called, not once. My 19th birthday came and went without even a text message from her. I shouldn't have checked my phone that day, shouldn't have hoped, but old habits die hard. Later that night, I made the mistake of checking her Facebook page. There they were, dozens of pictures of her perfect family, Mom, Richard, and Emily at the beach. Emily's dance recitals, family dinners, holiday celebrations, each photo carefully staged to show their happiness, each caption talking about family time and loving my family. I wasn't in any of them, of course. I'd been cropped out of their family portrait long ago. I threw myself into my studies after that, determined to prove that I didn't need their approval to succeed. The years flew by, and before I knew it, I was walking across the stage to receive my diploma in financial analysis. Dad cheered so loud, you'd have thought I'd won an Olympic medal. After graduation, Sarah approached me with an opportunity. Her brother Mark ran a successful investment firm in our hometown, and she'd mentioned my academic achievements to him. The interview with Mark went well. He was professional but warm, reminding me a bit of Sarah in the way he got straight to the point while still making you feel at ease. "Your credentials are impressive," he said, reviewing my resume. "But I need to be clear, the fact that you're my sister's stepdaughter won't earn you any favors here. You'll have to prove yourself just like everyone else." "I wouldn't want it any other way," I replied. I got the job and rented a small one-bedroom apartment near the office. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I worked harder than I'd ever worked before, taking on the projects nobody else wanted, staying late to perfect financial models, developing comprehensive growth strategies for our clients. The results spoke for themselves. Client portfolios under my management showed remarkable growth. The company's revenue increased significantly, and Mark noticed. He didn't play favorites, but he did believe in rewarding good work. The bonuses and raises came because I'd earned them, not because I was family. The first thing I did with my surprise year-end bonus was buy gifts for my real family. A new golf set for Dad, who'd been using the same clubs for 15 years, a spa weekend package for Sarah, who never splurged on herself, the latest gaming console for Tommy, who was still using his old one from high school. Watching them open their gifts, seeing their genuine happiness and surprise, I felt something settle in my chest. I might have been cut out of one family photo album, but I'd found my place in a better one. After 5 years of hard work, I had a solid plan. Every month I put away a chunk of my salary into my savings account. I'd researched the housing market thoroughly, looking for the perfect property. I wanted something modest but comfortable, maybe with a small garden. Most importantly, I wanted to make a substantial down payment to keep the monthly mortgage payments manageable. Then came the phone call that changed everything. I was at my desk, reviewing quarterly reports, when my phone lit up with a number I hadn't seen in years. "Brittany, sweetie," Mom's voice was syrupy sweet. "I've been thinking about you so much lately." I nearly dropped my coffee. 9 years of silence, and now this? "How are you, Mom?" I kept my voice neutral. "Oh honey, I miss you, we all do. Why don't you come over for dinner this weekend? Emily's home from college, and Richard's making his famous pot roast." Curiosity got the better of me. That Saturday I pulled up to my old house in my new Mercedes, nothing flashy but reliable and professional. Emily answered the door, looking me up and down with poorly concealed interest. "Nice car," she said by way of greeting. The house hadn't changed much. Same furniture, same family photos on the walls, still none of me. Mom rushed forward to hug me, acting like we'd just seen each other yesterday. Darling, you look fantastic. So professional in that suit. Richard, doesn't she look successful? Richard nodded, pulling out my chair. We heard you're doing very well at Mark's company. The family grapevine says you're one of their top performers. Throughout dinner they peppered me with questions about my job, my salary, my car. Mom kept mentioning how expensive everything was these days, especially with Emily in college. That's such a beautiful watch, Mom commented, reaching for my wrist. Must have cost a fortune. I smiled politely. It was a birthday gift from Dad and Sarah. Of course it was, she said, her smile tightening slightly. They always did spoil you. That dinner turned into more invitations. Suddenly Mom wanted to be part of my life again. She'd call regularly, stop by my apartment unannounced with Emily in tow, invite me to family dinners. Emily would wander around my modest apartment, examining everything with calculating eyes. This place is kind of small, she commented once. I thought you made good money. I kept my responses vague. It suits my needs. Mom would chime in, but surely you're planning to upgrade soon? With your salary. I just smile and change the subject. Something about their sudden interest in my life made me uneasy. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. Emily was over at my apartment supposedly to bond with her big sister. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard her gasp from my living room. Oh my God, she said, staring at my laptop screen. I'd left my banking app open after paying some bills. Is that really how much money you have saved? I quickly walked over and closed the laptop. It's not polite to look at other people's private information, Emily. She ignored my comment. Why are you saving so much? What's it for? I hesitated but figured there was no harm in telling her. I'm planning to buy a house soon. I want to make a good down payment to keep the mortgage payments reasonable. Emily just nodded, but I could see the wheels turning behind her eyes. She left shortly after, making some excuse about meeting friends. The very next day Mom called to invite me to dinner. As soon as I sat down at their dining table, I knew something was up. Mom had that look she used to get when she was about to ask Dad for more child support. Emily tells me you're quite the saver, she said, passing the potatoes. That's wonderful, honey. You know, Emily's having such a hard time with college expenses, and she'll need an apartment after graduation. I took a bite of my food, saying nothing. It would be so nice if her successful big sister could help her out, Mom continued, her voice dripping with suggestion. Family helping family, you know? I put down my fork. I don't understand what you're getting at, Mom. Oh, come on, Brittany, she said, dropping the sweet act. You're clearly doing very well for yourself. Emily needs help with an apartment, and you have more than enough money saved up. It would be the right thing to do. I looked at her incredulously. The right thing to do? You mean give Emily my house down payment? Well, you're already established in your career, Richard chimed in. Emily's just starting out. She needs the help more than you do. I'm not established, I said firmly. I'm working hard and saving my money to build my own future. I'm not giving Emily my savings. Mom's face darkened. So you're just going to let your sister struggle while you sit on a pile of money after all we've done for you? I almost laughed at that. All you've done for me? Like what exactly? Forget my birthdays? Ignore me for years? Push me aside for Emily? You're being selfish, Richard muttered, not quite meeting my eyes. A real sister would want to help. A real mother would have been there for both her daughters. I shot back, standing up. I'm taking care of myself first. Emily is your responsibility, not mine. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom sat there, jaw clenched, while Richard glared at his plate. Emily wasn't at this dinner, but I could imagine her reaction when they told her later. Poor Emily, whose selfish big sister wouldn't give her a free apartment. 2 weeks after that disastrous dinner, I had to leave for a business trip to Singapore. Mark had trusted me with an important client presentation, and I'd be out of reach for most of the time due to the time difference and packed schedule. I'll be gone for about 10 days, I told Mom when she called, trying to maintain some semblance of politeness despite our recent argument. Just letting you know I'll be out of contact. Oh, overseas? How nice for you, she replied, her voice oddly interested. The trip went well, but when I landed back home my phone exploded with as soon as I turned off airplane mode. Banking alerts. Dozens of them. My hands started shaking as I scrolled through them. Account transfer. $100,750. The world started spinning. I rushed home, threw open my laptop and logged into my banking app. There it was, a massive transfer to an account I didn't recognize, but the name on the transfer, Patricia Warren, my mother's name. I drove to their house like a woman possessed. My banking app screenshots pulled up on my phone. When I pounded on their door, Richard answered with a smug look that made my blood boil. Where is she? I demanded, pushing past him. Mom was sitting in the living room, calm as could be, flipping through a magazine. Oh, you're back. How was your trip? I thrust my phone in her face. What is this? How did you transfer money from my account? She barely glanced at the screen. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. It's right here, a transfer to your account. How did you do it? Mom finally dropped the innocent act. She put down her magazine and smiled. Actually smiled. Fine. Yes, I transferred the money. Emily needs an apartment, and you weren't being cooperative, so we helped ourselves. How did you even get into my apartment? My voice was shaking. Oh, honey. She reached into her purse and held up a key. Remember when I borrowed your bathroom that day I visited? It only takes a minute to make a copy. I felt sick to my stomach. Give me my money back now, or I'm going to the police. Mom actually laughed. Don't be ridiculous. You won't go to the police. I'm your mother. Besides, you can always save up again. You have a good job, no responsibilities. Emily needs this more than you do. We've already found her the perfect apartment. I'm serious, I cut her off. Return my money or what? Mom sneered. You'll send your own mother to jail? Please, you don't have the spine. Richard grabbed my arm and started pushing me toward the door. I think it's time for you to leave. This is your last chance, I warned them. Give me back my money. Mom's only response was to wave goodbye with a smirk. Richard shoved me out onto the porch and slammed the door in my face. The police station was quiet that night. I sat across from Detective Martinez, my hands steady as I filled out the complaint form. I had everything documented: the unauthorized transfer, screenshots of the banking app, text messages with my mother about my business trip. Richard called me that same night, his voice alternating between threats and pleas. You need to withdraw the complaint, he demanded. Do you have any idea what you're doing to your mother? Your mother's crying. I hung up. Let her cry. I'd cried plenty of times over the years because of her. The legal process moved surprisingly quickly. The evidence was overwhelming, and Mom's arrogant admission to the theft didn't help her case. She sat in the courtroom, playing the role of the repentant mother, tears streaming down her face as she promised to return every penny. I just wanted to help my younger daughter, she sobbed to the judge. I let my maternal instincts cloud my judgment. I almost laughed out loud. Maternal instincts? Since when? The judge wasn't impressed. Mrs. Warren, your maternal instincts led you to commit premeditated theft and fraud against your other daughter. The only reason you're not going to prison is that you've agreed to make full restitution and have no prior criminal record. She got a suspended sentence and was ordered to return my money within 30 days. I got a restraining order against both her and Richard just to be safe. Dad and Sarah were with me through all of it. They sat behind me in court, brought me dinner when I was too exhausted to cook, and never once said I told you so about letting Mom back into my life. You did the right thing, Sarah told me after the sentencing. They needed to learn they couldn't take advantage of you anymore. Tommy, in his typical fashion, tried to lighten the mood. Well, at least now you know for sure which family actually loves you. He was right. The lines were clear now. I had my real family: Dad, Sarah, Tommy, even Mark, who'd been incredibly supportive through the whole ordeal. And then there were the others: Mom, Richard, Emily, who'd shown their true colors in the most dramatic way possible. 6 months have passed since then. My money is back in my account, earning interest while I house hunt. I've got my eye on a lovely 3-bedroom colonial with a fenced backyard, just 10 minutes from Dad and Sarah's place. The mortgage paperwork is being processed, and this time I'm the only one with keys to my home. Mom still tries to reach out sometimes through relatives or mutual acquaintances. She claims she's changed, that she's sorry, that she wants to make amends. But I'm done giving chances to people who see me as nothing but a resource to exploit. Yesterday, I had dinner with my real family to celebrate my upcoming house purchase. As we sat around Sarah and Dad's dining table, sharing jokes and making plans for my housewarming party, I realized something. Sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you're born into. And sometimes letting go of toxic relationships is the healthiest thing you can do for yourself. In 2 weeks, I'll be signing the papers for my new house. Dad's already planning to help me paint the walls, and Sarah's been sending me links to furniture she thinks would look perfect in my living room. This is what family should be: people who support you, love you, and would never dream of hurting you for their own gain. As for Mom, Richard, and Emily, they can keep their perfect family photos and their manipulative games. I've got something better: a real family, a clear conscience, and soon a house with exactly one set of keys.